take a step back and just say, God, you've done pretty good for me. I appreciate that. I thank you for it. And ask him to continue to guide you to the next opportunity. My name is Matt Prestil. Basically been a member of St. John Vianney since 1968, 67, somewhere in there. Kind of been the church of my life. Grew up here, went to St. John Vianney School. The story and the move of Lent was kind of coincidental. The thing that struck me is a couple years ago, I'd gotten away from, trying to give up this or give up that, or, and decided that I really wanted to try to focus more on growing my faith. So I'd subscribed to a monthly publication called the Magnificat. And I've been reading, the Bible and the gospel and the stories in that and doing some of their contemplation. And then I'd started listening to the Bible in a Year with Father Mike Schmitz. At the time, my job had me in an office in Madison. So depending on the traffic, depending on the weather, sometimes I'd get there in 50 minutes, sometimes it'd take an hour or so. As I was struggling, all of a sudden, due to the pandemic, our offices were closed and everybody was assigned to work from home. And at first you're like, okay, this is great. I just saved myself 2 hours or so a day. But then I got to thinking that even with my alarm clock, I was getting up at the same time. And I'm like, okay, do I lay here and try to fall back asleep for an hour? And I thought, no, let's make better use of my time. And so that's when I started really diligently making that time available to do a little bit more reading, more directly listen to the Bible in a Year. At the time it was podcasts, as opposed to just kind of trying to listen to it, really focus on what it was saying. And I started getting a lot more out of it. And I found that extra hour in the morning really propelled me into, to be honest, something I'm still doing today. A couple years later, I still taken, it's actually grown to a little over 45 minutes, where I will still do the Magnificat. I did 2 years of the Bible in a Year, and now I'm doing the Catechism in a Year with Father Mike Schmitz. And I've also started to do a little bit of the Liturgy of the Hours, doing the morning, the evening, and the night. And then I have some individual prayers that I do also. But the fact that 2 years ago, I dedicated that extra 45 minutes to an hour to focusing on prayer and trying to just become a better me, understand faith better. The fact that occurred, out of otherwise kind of a negative time. And for me to keep going 2 years later, I think is kind of the message is I received from God that, you can use your time better. I would encourage everybody, to just look at the time, geez, I'll roll over and get an extra half hours of sleep or something that you really could be using more productively. And that's what got me going, got me here. The thing that struck me was I started and I wasn't really devoted to it, wasn't really paying attention to it because I had other things on my mind. And it isn't the amount of time. It's just do what you can, be it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to dedicate that time. If you have an opportunity presented to yourself where all of a sudden, for whatever reason, you have some extra time, say, I'm going to use that time to my advantage. And I'm gonna devote that time to God and to my faith. And I don't think it matters if it's 10 minutes or half hour or whatever. It just make that conscious effort to do something. But I think the first thing that I've noticed is, I still have my moments, but I find myself overall a lot more calm than I was ever before. I find myself trying not to react to situations, to take a deep breath, to think about it, to figure out what the right path is. The amount of blessings in my life are pretty tremendous. And the generosity that you'd mentioned, the generosity of my time, I think is been there, but I always look for other opportunities. But the the generosity of, I guess, your resources would be the best way. I find myself more willing to do something with that. If something comes up where somebody needs help or there's a cause that really needs help, I find myself more willing to put them first rather than myself, because this has taught me, if nothing else, God provided for me all through my life. And I won't go into the details about that, but he's always had the answer if I was willing to listen for that answer. And so I don't worry too much about, do I have a big enough bank account or do I have this or that? I worry about doing the right thing and doing what he really wants me to do. And I think that's allowed me to focus more on that. And just take a step back and maybe, get the focus off of myself a little bit and focus more on others. Rather than looking for or always praying for something, take a step back and just say, God, you've done pretty good for me. I appreciate that. I thank you for it. And ask him to continue to guide you to the next opportunity, whatever that might be. It might be something you totally have no idea what it's going to be. And probably that's what it's going to, you have no clue. But just to be open to it. Be open to spending time in prayer if you have it, making time for prayer. But be open to appreciating what you have in your life and looking for opportunities to do better.